So I wanted to kind of just give some videos since I can't do a training aviate Harrier. Show you guys what I see when I do things like conventional takeoff, conventional landing, vertical takeoff, vertical landing, all those good kind of basic procedures. What I'm going to do in this video is a conventional takeoff. Basically, conventional takeoff, conventional landing, you land it, take off just like a normal airplane does. With some minor exceptions, you don't pitch up to 10 degrees like an F-15 or an A-10 or other high-speed aircraft. Harrier doesn't like to pitch up higher than about 2 degrees until you're off the ground. 2 to 2.5 degrees pitch up is all you're looking for with this witch's hat. I'm going to also introduce what I call figure checks. You can look into the flight manual to see what figure checks are for. Conventional takeoff, conventional landing. Basically, figure one checks are basically when you set up at the hold short line your takeoff settings and also your mission settings. So, for conventional takeoff, I've already calculated my nose wheel lift speed of probably around 130, 135 knots. The next thing I do is I go over here. I want my stow stop to be clear. I want my nozzles to be 10 degrees. I can see that they are full forward right now. And there's 10 degrees. I go to my flaps and I look at my flaps. I see that they're cruise. I'm going to flip into auto. That's the setting for conventional takeoff. Water I'm not going to use for this takeoff. My engine's just fine. I'm going to just go dry. And then I come over here and look at my trim. This is your stabilator trim. For most takeoffs, I go ahead and trim up to 3 degrees. This is going to make it easier for me to pitch up and fight the aircraft's tendency to want to pitch down and stay down. You can see in my natural state here, I'm about 4 degrees nose down. That's the natural, just standing state of the Harrier. When I do my conventional takeoff and I reach my nose wheel lift speed, you're going to notice that my witch's hat will go up to the horizon. Right there, you'll kind of probably see it slow down. You'll notice me fighting it a little bit. That's just normal. I'll get it up there, and then I'll pull aft stick just a little more to bump the nose up to 2 degrees, and then the aircraft will start lifting off. So that completes my figure one checks. The last thing is just to make sure I'm set up for the mission. So I've got my waypoint selected here, waypoint 1. Basically going to show the pattern I do with the SFAM1 course that I've set up. Basically come to this waypoint, I'm going to do a brake turn into the pattern and do a conventional landing. So without further ado, let's get on the runway. So when I come up to the runway, I'm going to do what's called figure 2 checks. Basically, figure 2 checks is one last quick scan to make sure you're ready for takeoff, and then a run-up. You don't come out of the run-up, you stay at the run-up, and you take off, basically. So I've got my engine page on the right side here. First thing for my figure 2 checks is I'll go ahead and stow stop, nozzles, flaps, water, and trim. They're all good. At this point, I look at my HUD. I'm going to drop my flaps to 50. Conventional takeoff and flaps on auto. Expect my flaps to stay at 25. They do. Bring it back down to the takeoff nozzle position of 10 degrees for conventional takeoff. And then I'm going to move over to this engine page to do my run-up. So if you look down here at this engine page, you'll notice this acceleration down here. I'm going to click this Excel OSB right here. I'll notice those numbers went to 0. So this is going to tell me how fast my engine accelerates to 60% RPM. So at this point, I'm going to engage my throttle up to 60 RPM. It's okay to blow past it. And come back to 60. And 2.9 seconds. If you do it right, you'll get 2.4 seconds. As long as it's within 3.6 seconds. If you gradually up to 60%, it's okay. Does it have a function? Does it have a purpose? I don't know. NATO's flight manual just has you do that. And then right now I am at my run up, so I'm ready to take off. I'm going to stay silent through the takeoff. I may pause when I get my pitch attitude. and talk about it, but here goes the takeoff. Alright, so just to talk about current position, this is my point where you want to go ahead and do your after landing checks. For conventional takeoff, you keep it at a 6-degree pitch line all the way to 300 knots. At this point, I can decide to do a max power climb, or I can just do a average power climb. It's up to you. Max power climb, you just pitch up at full power, 109% RPM, and climb to maintain 300 knots. Average power, you choose your RPM and you stay 300 knots when you pull up. This is just the conventional takeoff pitch attitude. I'm just going to go ahead and unpause, climb up to 3,000, go to my waypoint, and I'll pull back to a pattern altitude. And I forgot to mention, one part of the after landing checks is to go into nav. So I'm blowing through my 3,000 just a little bit. And there we go, pretty stable, about 10 knots above and 100 feet above 3,000. But we're going to go ahead and catch this waypoint, and I'll show you guys a typical 10-degree angle of attack, brake turn, or 4Gs, whichever comes first. I won't hit 4Gs, it'll just be 10 degrees angle of attack. Coming up on the waypoint. There, just past the waypoint. Going idle and turn. So in this brake turn, you notice that my angle of attack symbol here, I'm at 10.4 degrees. So not bad holding my angle of attack. A little bit below my altitude in my level turn. Notice my flight path is a little above the horizon in order to try to maintain this. Not sure why the Harrier sets it up this way, but even in autopilot, you'll notice this flight path mark will stay above the horizon in order to maintain a certain altitude. I'm going to try to hold 250 knots all the way down to the downward leg. Okay, just descending back down to 1000 AGL for the pattern altitude. Okay, pulling up 1000 AGL. And I'm going to have to keep a general climb because this terrain kind of slopes down. I'm using my radar altimeter here. So right here, I'm kind of in the middle of the airfield. This is called the approaching 180 point. This is where I want to go ahead and drop my gear get set up for my landing, do my landing checks. For conventional takeoff, all it is gear down, flaps auto, and then start decreasing my speed to catch my angle of attack. When I do that, I will also switch to my VSTOL page.
Landing gear, landing gear.
Okay, so as you can see over here, I have caught my angle of attack about 10 degrees. This little pitch caret right here will tell you whether you're 10 degrees or 12 degrees. At the double dots is 10, just above is about 12. You want to maintain 10 to 12 degrees angle of attack throughout the 180 turn. If you look over here to your left, this is the 180 turn point. So I generally start my descent first and then slowly get my turn in. When you're doing 1000 AGL pattern altitude, if you're at the right spot, you're generally going to need about 5 degrees glide slope in order to catch a certain couple altitudes that you're supposed to catch. So at the 90, so basically perpendicular to the runway, you're supposed to be about 500 to 600 feet AGL. At the 45, so you are at the 45 degree angle compared to the runway heading. You want to be about 350 to 450 AGL. And then in the groove, you want to be about 220 feet to 280 feet AGL. Now, over to my left, you'll notice these two roads right here, this one and this one. Kind of calculated the distance from this point of the runway to this road. That is about 3/4 mile. So when I come out, I want to come out just about over here, and I want to be rolled out or coming into final approach on the runway just before I pass this road right here. So we'll see how I do. So here I am, basically perpendicular to the runway at my 90. You can see I'm at 510 feet AGL. That's pretty good. Sometimes I like to be higher, about 550 or the 600 mark. But still maintaining about 10 to 12 degrees angle of attack at this speed right here. I'll go ahead and pause it again when I'm in the groove, but at 45 I should be around 350 to 450. And then like I said, there is the second road, that is my 3/4 mile mark. Alright, so roughly at the 3/4 mile mark here at this road, I'm at 210, so I am just a little shy of 220. 220 is probably as low as you want to get. Just about 3 degrees glide slope, catching my 10 degrees angle of attack. So I'm going to continue to go this glide slope, this angle of attack, try to get it up to 12. And then when I hit 50 AGL, I'm going to pitch up, and then I'm going to keep maybe a 0 to 2 degree pitch attitude all the way to touchdown. And then pretty rapidly what you're going to see is me go nose down 2 degrees. I'm going to bring my nozzles all the way to 99, so full forward. And then bring my RPM back up to 70 degree or 70% RPM. That's considered, or that's called power nozzle braking. So without further ado, here we go. Alright, so I've cut my 2 degrees nose down. I have got my nozzles as far forward as I can get, and I'm RPM 70. So currently power nozzle braking, I'll go down to 60 knots, and then I'll bring my nozzles to hover stop, and then continue rolling to the end of the runway. And at this point I'm pretty slow, so I'll go ahead and pull over here to the cold side. If I wanted to catch this taxiway, I could go ahead and start braking here. Bring my nozzles and flaps to a taxi position of cruise and 10 degrees, and then go ahead and take this taxiway. Alright, then I would contact ground and go find parking. There you go. That's a pretty good conventional takeoff, conventional landing. I was pretty happy with it. Could always get better, more precise, but overall pretty good, and keep working on it, and I'll see you guys around.